Shalom everybody, welcome back to Insights in the Parsha of the week, Parshat VaEtchanan, right after Tisha B'Av, and also it's Shabbat Nachamu. Baruch Hashem, the electricity is in the air as we get ready, at least in Breslov circles, we get ready big time from now until Rosh Hashanah. Because we just have 7 weeks now until Rosh Hashanah, which is very exciting and very electrifying for us, B'ezrat Hashem. In any event, this Parsha, many things of course, in the review of Moshe Rabbeinu of the Ten Commandments, if you recall, in Parshat Yitro, we had the actual initial mentioning of the Ten Commandments when the Jews reached Har Sinai, etc. And here, before Moshe Rabbeinu's passing, he goes over them once again. And so, if that's the case, so you would think that the wording would be identical. If it's a review, it should be identical. But like the sages teach, that there are some nuances, some changes, and those changes are just made to add something new to them. So one of the things that Rashi points out is on Shabbat. If you take a look in Parshat Yitro on Shabbat, it says there, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. Okay? You should remember the day of Shabbat to sanctify it, to remember it. How do you remember it? It's a positive act. To remember it with speech, that's the idea of the Kiddush. But also Zachor means the positivity in what you do on Shabbat, like sanctifying Shabbat with Kiddush and Havdalah, okay, and 3 meals, etc. And in this week's Parsha, it says, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho. You must guard, you must be careful to watch and guard Shabbat to sanctify it. And the Shamor comes to teach us about what you have to be careful not to do work, not to do melacha on Shabbat, is learned from this week's Parsha, Shamor. You have to guard it. How do you guard it? By making sure you don't transgress Shabbat, by doing melacha, what's considered work, as delineated by the sages, the 39 workings, etc., and then the Shvutim, and the Rabbanan, and Muktzeh, and all the things that make up the parameters of Shabbat and the prohibition of what we cannot desecrate, okay? So, it's a question here. You said in Parshat Yitro, Zachor, and here it's Shamor. It's like totally opposite. What's going on here? So Rashi makes that notice, and Rashi says something amazing. Okay, Rashi says Shamor ubarishono to omer Zachor. Like we said, it says in this week's Parsha to guard, and the first time that they were mentioned in Parshat Yitro, it says Zachor, right? And he says Shnehem bedibur echad ubeteva achat neemru ubishmi achat nishmeu. Both of them, Zachor and Shamor, totally different words. Shamor, Zachor, okay? You have a Shin Mem here and a Zayin Chaf. He says something happened which is totally supernatural, above nature. He says, Rashi, both these words, when the Jews heard the 10 Commandments, right? Come from the mouth of Moshe of Hashem, they heard at the same time, simultaneously. So he says like this, Shneim bedibur echad. Both words, Shamor and Zachor, 2 different words, were said by Hashem in one word. Hashem said one word, and the person heard both Shamor and Zachor simultaneously, something that can't be done normally. So they heard from the same source, Shamor v'Zachor, number 1, okay, ubeteva echat, and then, like we know, that they saw the letters of the 10 Commandments. They saw the letters. They saw the fire of the letters. So they saw also 2 words which are totally different. Shin Mem Shamor, Zachor, Zayin Chaf, also in one word, 2 different letters on for Zayin, Shin, right? Mem and Chaf. They saw that together, right? Neemru, these were said and given, expressed together. Ubishmi Achat, and also when they heard Shamor v'Zachor, they heard it simultaneously. Something which is supernatural, can't be done, okay? So what's going on here? Why the need for Hashem to do that? Why can't Hashem teach just like, say, Shamor or just Zachor? And then afterwards, Moshe Rabbeinu, like the other laws, will develop them. Like in Parshat Mishpatim, we have development. We have other Parshas that have extended laws. There's 613 mitzvot. 10 commandments are 10 of them, which include within them the other 603. Fine. But the Torah has to delineate the other 613. We have, like we say on Shavuot, on the night of Shavuot, we count the Taryag mitzvot. We mention them based on how they're mentioned and organized in the verses throughout the Torah. So the Torah does mention in total 613 mitzvot. Of them are 10 commandments, okay? So, and Shabbat is extended in several places. It's mentioned, the laws of Shabbat are mentioned here and there in various parashiyot, also in the Ten Commandments. So why can't Hashem take time, mention just one, mention or Zachor, or Shamor, and then afterwards have it expanded like other mitzvot were expanded? Why the need? Why is it so important for Hashem? No, they have to come packaged and parcel together. You have to have Shamor and Zachor together, both in speech, both in written and in sight, and also how they hear it. It has to be together. So what's going on here? Zachor and Shamor are basically two opposites. Before we go into this, we have to explain what Shabbat is. Shabbat is called Shabbat, which means to sit, shevet. Take it easy, relax. Menucha, Shabbat u'menucha. It's the time that we refrain from doing work, and it's a time to take a break. Hashem is telling us, stop. Turn off the phone, turn off this, no work, no driving, no light, no action, no going out, no. You have to stop, refrain from doing anything, and dedicate the day for Shabbat. You have the mitzvah to daven, to eat, to learn Torah. That continues, no problem, okay? But now work to do melachot, as delineated in the Torah, that's forbidden. So you have to take a break. So that's from the Shamor part, okay? But at the same time, we're taught that Shabbat is the time that a Jew, the neshama of the Jew, reaches the highest level of perceptions. What a Jew can perceive on Shabbat is greater than any other time of the week. The Torah study of Shabbat is a great time to perceive. In other words, Shabbat, on one hand, we're taught to stop, to refrain, but at the same time, it's the time that you can advance the greatest levels possible. The Arizal said about himself that the sleep that he slept on Shabbat afternoon contained like 80 hours of Torah study or whatever. He was able to perceive in the sleep of Shabbat much more than the learning during the week. Okay, this is just the Arizal. But to show you that Shabbat is also a time to advance. So decide. You say Shabbat, which means to stop, to refrain, but at the same time, we're told to advance. It's like the mitzvah Zachor, Hashem wants you to remember by sanctifying it with kiddush and the meals. These things are meant to advance and elevate a Jew to the highest levels possible. What a Jew reaches in the three meals of Shabbat, also it says in several places in the Zohar, is even greater than all the Torah study during the week. The greatest accomplishments are in the three meals of Shabbat. Okay? Rav Nosson says in one place, for example, the reason why we don't blow shofar on Shabbat like this coming year is because instead of the shofar, you have the three meals. Shvarim, Tkiya, Shvarim, Teruah are corresponding to the three meals of Shabbat. You eat on Shabbat, it's like blowing the shofar. Just to show you how far-reaching is what we do on Shabbat. It goes super far. So decide. Shabbat, which means to sit, lashevet, which means don't do, and yet Zachor, to remember, is to do. These are two opposites. So the Torah is teaching that Rashi is pointing out from what the sages say, they have to be together simultaneously. This idea is really, really stressed in Rebbe Nachman's teachings, in particular lesson 24 of Likutey Moharan, and it is a major, major lesson of life. You see, for example, young people, teenagers, or people in their, what's called in Yiddish, Yingelite, people who just got married in their 20s and their 30s, and who are in Breslov, who are in Avodat Hashem, who are trying to serve Hashem. People have energy. When they're young, they're energetic. People are young in the Torah, they go full force. We have to get up on time, and I have to run. That's beautiful. And that's how a Jew technically should be, right? Everything is to run forward, to advance. There's so much to do. The attitude is like what Rav Zusha of Anapoli's wife told him. Like to get him up at midnight, Rav Zusha's wife says, Zusha, get up. Do you have enough? Get up, because there's enough time to sleep in the grave. There's two traditions. Some say he said that to himself. Some say his wife said it to him. But the point is that these people were an attitude of, there's what to do. It's understood that you have to do and do and do. And yet, Rebbe Nachman says, you have to be careful from what's called ribui or, too much light. You need to know when to put on the brakes. Because the way to perceive, again, it's a big, big rule in all of life. The way you perceive and advance in life is not from just the going forward. It's the going forward and then being pushed back and knowing to handle the setback, taking it properly with simcha and emunah. That's what builds you. It's dependent on the going forward. Yes, it's not just, okay, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing and let all the light come to me. No, that's not how life works. Life works that you advance, you go forward, and you then get pushed back. You get bounced back. You need both, and that's what builds you. This is the secret of Shamor and Zachor. And Hashem wants them to be together. That's that's the biggest thing, that a person has a separation. Or I'm advancing, or I'm not. Rebbe Nachman teaches you need both, and you need to know and accept and believe that both work together. They're simultaneous. There's the running and the bouncing back, and they're one package and parcel together. They're not separate things. Okay, I'm in running mode and now I'm in back mode. Whenever I'm running, I know that part of the completion of the running is the setback. I have to expect it already. And also when I have a setback, it's because there was a running before, and there's going to be another running afterwards. But that's how things work together. And Hashem, specifically with Shabbat, wants to teach us this, because Shabbat is the maximum experience in this world of this attitude of running and returning together. You're not doing anything. Shabbat, menucha, relax, take it easy, no work, no smartphones, no reaching out, no emails, no classes, no internet, no going to work, no run, hustle and bustle. And yet, in this time of relaxation, you're connecting to the highest levels of holiness, if you merit, if you zoche, of course. Two happening together. So for Hashem, it's important that they come out together, both in speech, both and in sound, and also in vision. So you notice, Rashi pointed out that they heard. So the order Rashi says, let's go according to the order that Rashi says, bedibur echad. So the coming from the mouth, speech came out one word, Shamor v'Zachor, and then b'teva echad, when they saw the Ten Commandments, they saw Shamor v'Zachor together also. Or when Moshe Rabbeinu came with them, it was etched together, Shamor v'Zachor. V'nemu b'shmi achat nishmeu. And when they heard Shamor and Zachor, they heard them together, not first Shamor and then Zachor. Okay. For Hashem, it's important to teach that, because this is the message of life, that both the running and returning, the advancing and then having a setback, they work together. They're one package and parcel. That's life. That's Judaism. You don't get, when I was younger, I was so energetic and this, and look at me now, I'm an old jlub, an old shmata, I can't do this. No, you ran and ran and ran, and this part of life, you're being bounced back, and they work together. The reason why the guy who's walking slow and everything, his perception of life and godliness is much greater than the young guy who's running and doing it. And the young guy thinks we were like that. We're all like that. When you're young, you see the old guy say, look at that old fogey. He's going slow at 1 kilometer per hour. What does he know? But what does he know what I know? I know much more. I'm advancing. Look at him. He can't even read. He takes time to pay at the cash register. When he's buying stuff, he probably is not there. And the truth is just opposite. He has a higher perception, and really he's laughing at you. He doesn't have to show it. But he in reality is laughing at the young guy, because he's already after. He's already the running and the bounce back. The young guy, he hasn't been bounced back yet. Everything is just going forward. And then he gets hit. He does, what happened? And that's what builds him. That's the nisayon in life. Where are you when that happens, man? That's the thing. So going back, Shamor v'Zachor is the union of the both. Now, why does Rashi point out that they saw two? In other words, they saw the word Shamor v'Zachor in one word. Rashi points out it's important that there be one word, and also they hear one word, and also when Hashem spoke, in other words, the dibur came out in one word. They heard one word, and they saw. These three faculties of the mind, of the face, sight, speech, and hearing, are really corresponding to the three levels of intellect: Chochmah, Binah, Da'at. Eyes is related to Chochmah. Ears, Binah, Liba, Uba, Halev, Mevin. Shmiya, Taya, Beliba. These are quotes from the Zohar, where Shmiya, listening, is connected to the heart, and heart is the place of understanding. So the ears is what gives us the Binah, the faculty of Binah, and speech is Da'at, Umipiv Da'at. Okay? And from his mouth came, it's a verse from Proverbs, and from his mouth came forth the idea of Da'at, which is the unification. Each one is a different faculty. Chochmah, like it says by Adam and Eve, Tipakachna einei shneim, and their eyes were open. And Rashi points out, Al Shema Chochmah Ne'emar, that when they after eating from the tree of knowledge, so they realized they were naked. So and they saw, because it says, and they saw that they were naked. But Tipakachna, their eyes were open. What does it mean the eyes were open? It's like they saw, and then they had an awareness of knowledge. That's the idea of Chochmah. That's the eyes. Again, the ears is Binah, and the mouth is Da'at. So Rashi points out, for Hashem, it was important that all three should have Shamor v'Zachor. Because like Rebbe Nachman teaches, the way the person perceives in life is that Chochmah, Binah and Da'at, which are these three faculties of the mind, which correspond to these apertures of the face, the eyes, sight, the ears, hearing, and speech, the mouth, that they not only work together, but they become tangled, intertangled. He talks about this concept of these three, Chochmah, Binah, Da'at, when being hit with a setback, they become multiplied. They become so tangled and mingled with each other, so it becomes 3 times 3 equals 9. We won't go into this. This is lesson 24. You can take a look there in the Likutey Moharan. 9 chambers are created, where these 9 chambers become vessels for a person to perceive the infinite light, which translates on a practical level. You get somewhere in life. You have breakthroughs which were beyond your capacity, but you got to them, Baruch Hashem. So this gift is through Shamor Zachor. Shamor Zachor. Zachor is the advancement, what you want to do. You want to come close to Hashem. Shamor, hey, you're limited. Take it easy. You're refraining. No work, no malacha. There's like a refrainment. Like it's like a setback. It's a constriction. Both are needed. Both are said simultaneously. The message comes out specifically from Shabbat. We should be zoche to take advantage of Shabbat as the key for the entire week, the entire month, the entire year, and all of our life. That this is how Hashem designed perception of godliness. This is how we come to our tikkun in life. And all the big tzaddikim, Rebbe Nachman writes in Likutey Moharan, they mastered this. Their whole thing was to have a mastery of knowing how to advance and how to bounce back, and accepting both and working on them together. They reached such a high level of mastery that they perceived whatever they perceive, earning them the title of being tzaddikim. But each one of us at our simple level, I'm not a tzaddik, I'm just a regular Jew. Yes. Even to be a regular Jew, you need to have this specialty, this faculty of knowing how to have a Shamor and Zachor working together in your life. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Nachamu. Shabbat should be a consolation for us, that we should know how after Tisha B'Av, mourning the temple, we should know how to run with simcha at the same time. We're mourning the loss, and by the same time we're advancing with joy, and have a consolation of what's still here, what we have to use to build and start again. Like Rebbe Nachman once noticed, after there was a fire in Breslov, so after the fire, Rebbe Nachman was with his chassidim, with his followers, his students, walking around, seeing how they can help, or just observing other Jews to see what they can do. And they saw a homeowner, his whole house was burnt, and he was crying, bawling his eyes out because he lost everything. And he was going through all the rubble and debris, looking for something left of his house after being burnt. And Rebbe Nachman says, you see that, what he's doing? Even after a person is burnt totally, he looks for the good things he can still salvage and use and pick himself up and start again. That's how it is in life. That's how life is, okay? The Jews went to the Holocaust, crazy. And many of them couldn't start again. But there were those who did. They were able to say, okay, there was a test of emunah, I have to start again. A guy lost his wife and his kids are all killed. And for him to start again, to get remarried and start again, that's a big thing. But people did that. There were people who were able to start again and continue life. And Baruch Hashem, they had fruit, children, grandchildren, and there was hatzlacha, there was success in doing that. We should be zoche, B'ezrat Hashem, to use this key for all of life, because we're going to need it throughout, and that's our key to advancing truly. Shabbat Shalom.